Let's do another example. What happens if, let's say, a scientist appears on TV at the 8 o'clock news and says, exciting news has just come to hand. Research has shown that if you eat 3 tomatoes every day of your life, you're going to live 20 years longer. What do you expect is going to happen in our market for tomatoes? So the market for tomatoes, draw up our axes, supply curve, demand curve, equilibrium position, quantity in kilograms, price in rands. Right, so we're saying, what's the factor that's changing? It's T, isn't it? Tastes or preferences. What's happening? The news is going to cause a shift towards tomato in preference for tomato or away. It's likely to be a positive effect, isn't it, on the tomato market. So what do we expect to happen here in our market? Okay, we are asking what's going to happen to P and Q. But before we get there, before we know what's happening to P and Q, we've got to understand what the dynamics here is. What's changing? The demand curve will shift what? Right or left? To the right. Good. Quite right. D1, D1. We look to see where the new demand curve intersects with the existing supply curve. And that's where it intersects. We've got E1 there, so this is E2. Draw your line down to your quantity axis, so we can see quantity is going to increase, and what's happening to price? P2, price is up. Now, what we haven't shown on each of these axes is to indicate that the demand curve here has shifted and there's been a movement up the supply curve. Suppliers have increased, will increase their output to a greater output at Q2 to meet the new market demands. So there's a movement up the supply curve there, there's a movement up the supply curve here as well, and there's a movement down the supply curve on that graph. So we're clearly drawing a distinction between a movement up or down one curve and a shift, an entire shift to the right or the left of the other curve. And you've got to draw that distinction. So the next question we have to ask, and those are some of the factors that affect demand. What are all the factors? Because you need to write it in your module manual. On the second page, on page